Okay, we'll proceed with the other presentation of today from Andreas Willersinn. So we are changing now the sector. Actually, I think these sectors, the beer sector and the wine sector, are similar to each other for different aspects. Anyway, now we will listen the experience of Andreas from Austria. Thank you very much, Andreas, for being with us. And
good morning.
I give you the floor.
Yeah. Does everybody see me and hear me? It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So, because I don't see my own photograph, so okay.
Okay, no, you are pretty beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning to everybody, or good evening to everybody, wherever you are. I'm Andreas, and I'm responsible for the winery branch of Food Lab. That means the wine lab in Austria. The Food Lab, the beer business is done by some different companies. So I'm responsible for the wine world. And I will give you some clues about me. I'm based in Vienna. That means...
sorry, Andreas, did you share the presentation already or not? Because we don't...
I don't know how to... Wait a minute.
You should have a button with the possibility...
Wait a minute.
...to share.
Okay. We did it yesterday and now forget it how to share it, huh?
Yeah.
Gabriele, where's the point to...
You should have a button...
a green button...
where it is written
share.
In Italian is condividi.
Sì, lo so. Wait a minute. Where is it?
In the bottom part, if you go down...
on the right?
The menu, in the bottom, in the lower menu. If you go down with the...
In the lower
mouse,
part.
Se vai giù col mouse, trovi una menu che appare.
No.
Non lo vedi, perché deve andare giù per vedere.
No.
La finestrina con lui.
Se no si chiama Cornelia, si fa vedere la Cornelia.
No, che è successo? Scusate, stavo scrivendo. Non riesce a condividere perché lui non vede il menu laggiù. Perché non lo vede? Perché a lui, siccome lo speaker, gli appare diversamente. Try to go down with the mouse on the lower part, the menu down. If you go down,
Sì?
appear a menu with the green button with an arrow.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Right. Do you find it? Però puoi fare Alt S. Ok, Andrea.
Sì.
Can do also Alt S. With the
Alt S?
Alt and S.
Sì.
And appear the way to share the screen.
It doesn't react.
No? Alt S.
This is like Alt share, okay?
Yeah, Alt share, exactly.
No, it doesn't react.
Sì, dice...
Aspetta, io trovo l'audio acceso. Andreas?
Sì.
Können Sie mich hören?
Ja.
Können Sie?
Ja, ich höre Sie.
Perfekt. Die Zeilen an der Zeile unten, können Sie das sehen? Share.
Nein, das ist
Share
komisch.
oder teilen auf Deutsch.
Wenn ich die Präsentation ganz offen habe oder noch in der Folienansicht?
Questo è veramente molto epico, cioè per ricordarsi, entra un progetto tedesco per
Ah, Conny,
Ja,
in welcher Ansicht? In der Folienansicht oder in der ganzen Ansicht?
in der ganzen.
In der ganzen. Also ich mache jetzt die Präsentation richtig auf. Jetzt sehe ich sie auf beiden Schirmen, aber ich habe unten habe ich eine Leiste mit Weitermachen, mit
Genau. Und
ja,
in dieser Leiste sollte auch Share oder Teilen auf Deutsch sein.
nein, ist es nicht.
So wie wir das gestern gemacht
Ja,
haben.
ja, eben. Ich finde es aber nicht mehr gestern. Ich habe hier Bildschirm, Teiloptionen,
Wie-
Untertitel,
Bildschirm?
Kamera,
Was war da noch? Können Sie mir das ganz kurz nochmal sagen?
schwarz ausblenden, Taskgleiche anzeigen. Das ist nur eine optische Geschichte.
Nee. Dann auf der jetzt einmal zurück, also auf die kleine.
Ja, habe ich.
Ändert sich das in der Zeile etwas?
Da ist dann keine Zeile mehr.
Da ist dann
Also,
keine Zeile. Das war gestern eben ganz anders. Das ging sofort, gell?
ja, natürlich. Ja. Warum, weiß ich jetzt nicht. So, Taskleiste anzeigen, aber das ist was anderes. So, Anzeigeneinstellungen duplizieren, vertauschen, Bildschirmpräsentation beenden. Da ist da ist das nicht. Ich verstehe das nicht.
Ich weiß jetzt auch nicht, wie ich da jetzt weiterhelfen kann, Andreas, weil ich habe das auch nicht auf Deutsch hier, sondern eben nur auf Italienisch und das ist eben,
Das ist ja kein Problem, aber jetzt, ich meine,
ja,
gestern habe ich das ja auch gehabt. Warum geht
eben,
das heute
eben,
nicht?
eben,
Ich muss
eben.
es vielleicht nochmal aufmachen und zumachen. Ne?
Probieren wir es mal, ja?
Scheiße. So, Moment.
Andrea, se non riusciamo, inviami la presentazione a me e
Tu hai la
me la
presentazione?
puoi rimandare, per favore? Me la rimandi al volo la presentazione? Me la puoi rinviare ora?
Präsentation beenden. Okay, gut. So, weiterer Volta. Okay, da ist nichts zum Teilen. Ich verstehe es
Ja.
nicht.
Also dann, wie Simone gesagt hat, schicken Sie bitte nochmal an.
Er hat sie ja schon. Also,
Er hat gebeten, das nochmal zu schicken. Wahrscheinlich hat er es
gut.
nicht.
Das ist kein Problem, die ist nicht sehr groß.
Okay.
Das mache ich jetzt mit wohin auf E-Mail, ja? Start. Neu. WineLab, okay. Ist gleich.
Inviata?
Mhm.
È inviato.
Ok. Okay, just receive it. Okay, thank you very much. Now we start the presentation.
And I tell you next slide, and you will know what to do.
Yeah,
Okay?
you can start. I'm now sharing the screen, so you can.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
No problem.
Good.
Okay, here we are.
Okay, once again, good morning to everybody, or good evening wherever you are. I'm Andreas from Austria. I'm based in Vienna. I'm responsible for the food lab in the winery branch, the so-called WineLab Touch. And there's a short story for you. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay, there you see I'm based in Vienna. This is in the middle of the wine growing area, and it's the capital of Austria too. Next slide, please. So I give you some clues of my working history. I was starting a long time ago on the wine market in Austria, selling wine. And later on, I get into wine techniques for some suppliers of wine production, notably some Bordeaux-based suppliers for the barrel business. And I'm doing this since ever then. And Connie, shut down your voice, please.
Tony, sorry, if you can. Thank you. Okay, yeah, Andreas, you can go ahead.
Okay, and in more than 10 years ago, in 2013, I was contacted by a Bordeaux-based supplier of for enological products, as yeast, fining agents, enzymes, tannins, and so on, because they had a problem, because for them, the market was abandoned. They had lost their agent, and they lost the market step by step. So they were decreasing the turnovers every year, and it was nearly zero. They contacted me if I can help them to find someone or something to redevelop the market. So I got down to business and I found a solution for them, and I helped them to redevelop the market. And then I was confronted with the specific needs of the winemakers here in Austria against the background of the market itself. So every wine market, like every beer market, is very different. So if you are in California, that works differently than Austria, and Austria works differently, for example, for Bulgaria with Plamen, who is present too, I think. Okay, next slide, please. Simone?
Yeah, I'm trying. Sorry. That's it. Okay, sorry. I have to recover the.
Okay, it's okay. Now you see it. This is a small map from Austria, just to explain a little bit the circumstances. All the wine growing regions in Austria are in the far east. In the north, you have the Czech Republic. In the east, you have Hungary and Slovakia. And in the south, you have Slovenia, just to have an idea where we are. So that has nothing to do with the German wine growing areas. We speak the same language, but apart of that, we are very different. Okay, some figures that you have an imagination. The whole surface is 45,000 hectares. Just to have an idea of Italy, Italy is just about 1 million hectares, or France, or Spain, or China. It was bigger in the former days, but we are now in the process of reducing, of restructuring the size of the vineyard. So it's about 1% of the global planted surface of wines. The distribution between, or the repartition between the two colors is 2/3 of white grapes and 1/3 of red grapes. We have about 10,000 wineries. Winery does mean every person who has one plant or more to make grapes. And we had of that 30 years ago or 40 years ago, we had 45,000. You know, this is still a very small structured area. Nowadays, with the figures from 2 years ago, we have 1,000 wineries with a production of more than 300 hectoliters. This is about 45,000 bottles in a way. And only 60 wineries with a production of more than 1 million liters or 10,000 hectoliters. Okay, just to have some idea. Simone, the next slide, please. Okay, I give you some characterization of the market. So as I have already told you, many small family-run wineries, even the bigger ones, have a very lean structure. Normally, it's the family, and the father is the boss for everything that you can imagine. So they are all-rounders, from agriculture over winemaking and to marketing of their own product. That means they are very intense in their time budget. Time is short. Well, they have a well-developed practical skills because they do it all. They have a good general education, but not on the academic level. So this is more or less self-taught. Only a very basic education as it concerns biochemical examination. That is not very popular. You have to do it, but you don't like it. So on the other hand, there is no real network of private laboratories. The huge majority of analysis is provided by the official state-run laboratories, who are also responsible for the final check number of quality wines. They have to pass when they are bottled, to pass a final examination, then get a control number, and then you can put the bottles on the market. And that means there's a very inhomogeneous database. That means, for example, for the FDI method, there is no database because there is no data from the producers. There's only some data from the state-run laboratories. And on the other hand, the state laboratory is always right. They have the last word. They are the reference method as an institution. And that's a problem. So, and they're only, on the other hand, only a very, very small number of independent consultant enologists. This is, for example, quite different from the situation in France, where this is already over-consulted. There are more consultants than wine growers now. So it's they are not doing their things themselves. They have to put everything in question and ask my consultant. This is not here the case. They are self-made here and do a lot of decision on their own. The next slide, please, Simone. That's me. It's not a slide.
Sorry, because sometimes I don't know why.
Ah, yeah, okay. Okay, this is the next one, please.
Yeah, just a second. Yes, cool.
So this is the general slogan here is do it yourself. And this is like the craft beer in England, I think, for the small companies. And this is also the slogan for myself on the market, because I'm a one-man show selling the things, do it yourself. You have to take your decisions on the place. The next slide, please, Simone. So there are specific requirements now on the specific situation of the Austrian market. But there are also some external influences that are influencing the situation now. The requirements are rapidly changing now. As it concerns agriculture and winemaking, it gets more demanding. There are new regulations for the production standards in conventional, organic, or even biodynamic production, which is very popular now here. And the export markets are working with criteria that were unknown before. The customers get more and more critical. We have changing environment circumstances, like, for example, climate change. This is really something with some input on the decision making now. So how can I get, and this is the question of the winemaker, can I get correct analytical results in a short time? How can I get them the correct analytical results whenever I want to? How can I get them preferably at home? That is, I don't have to leave my production site to go to a laboratory, maybe 50 kilometers away. Have a correct analytical result without any special trainings. That the winemaking is not a white coat business; it's a blue collar business. So I cannot do it without any special personnel and training. And can I have them for the results for a reasonable price? Next slide, please.
They have the same problem. Sorry, Andreas.
No problem. The problem is general, but we are doing it ourselves. So this, okay. And the answer for all this, so the situation, for the changing world, and the demands for the good analytical results was CDR, the WineLab, can give the right answer. And as an added value, you can it before harvest, the in the States, in outside, taking samples from the vineyard, during harvest, on the pressing, during vinification, when the wine gets ready, and during aging, and even after bottling, to have a long-term control of your product 2 years later. Maybe this is important because instead of beer, wine, you have to keep it for 3, 4, 5, 7 years, and it's still changing, and you have to control it if it changes in the good or in a bad direction. So other instruments on the market were far too expensive. No normal private working wine grower is able to buy a FOSS FDI unit. It's not, that doesn't work. Yeah? Or it's too demanding for special kills. You can make the reference methods at home, but you have to you have your own laboratory, and you have to learn it, and you have to keep it in mind. And okay, that doesn't work in practice. And we have the problem everywhere in Austria of the non-sufficient database. I will give you an example afterwards. You have to make service contracts that costs money, and you have to be prepared. There's something coming you that's to control, to make the regular calibration, but you can't make the regular calibration because you don't have the data. So it's not worth the cost. It doesn't work really. And this is also a problem here in Austria. The users of the FDI are not participating on the ring test. So they have different results, and nobody knows what the neighbor does. So, and if you make the things at home, you have always the problem that you are confronted with dangerous chemicals, with special kills, and this is a problem with elementary regulations and so on. So that doesn't work. So it was never established to make things with other methods that are on the market. Next slide, please, Simone. So, so the most important thing for me, or for CDR, or for all us together, is to arouse interest, because we have this the thing when the wine grower has problems, but we have to show him what is the solution for his specific problem, because there are different problems, and not every wine grower has the same problem as his neighbor. Next slide, please. You have to be aware that the ordinary client on the small market, like here in Austria, is normally very reluctant towards analytical work, and he soon gets bored. He doesn't have time. After 10 minutes, when it doesn't work very clearly, he loses interest, and there's always, as I say here, there's always the cell phone ringing, and when I make a demonstration and the cell phone is ringing, he wants to make the pipette work, and in the same time telephoning, and that doesn't work. And so they think, okay, with my old methods to measure sugar or sulfur, I use my old school procedures. So when I with a client, I think the first thing you have to make is close the door and switch off the cell phone. And then we have 1 hour for demonstration. If there's the cell phone near, that doesn't work. It's always ringing. So we have to convince the client of a real added value to arouse his enduring interest of the client. And I will give you now 5 cases how it worked in my case. Maybe it works also in other countries. We will see that. Next slide, please. And the hook is the specific question I posed to the client. So the next slide, please. Okay, I'm making now 5 presentations, 5 portraits of 5 different wineries and their specific problem and how we could help the client to resolve it using the WineLab. The first one is the Gesellmann winery. This is a very, very good winery. It's with a high reputation, with mainly red wine and some white wine. He is really participating in the international market. The wines are not cheap. This is bottles for more than 20, 30 or 40 euros. And he had a problem. And what you see on the 2 pictures on the left, this is a fruit basket, an exotic fruit basket. On the right side, there's an egg, and a peeled egg. And what I mean is, he has one of his wines is the Sauvignon Blanc. This is a white variety. And when everything is working nicely, you have as an aroma the exotic fruit. Okay. When it works badly, imagine you peel a boiled egg, you have the smell of boiled eggs or even rotten eggs, and this has nothing to do with tropical fruit. And there's 1 or 2 reasons for this phenomenon. His plants of the Sauvignon variety is on a sandy soil. And the sandy soil is not very due to keep the water. So he has always a hydric stress, and in very hot years, and the years get even hotter every year now, he has a lack of yan. Yan is the yeast assimilable nitrogen. So if there's a lack of nitrogen, you have 2 problems. First, the fermentation doesn't work properly. You have to keep attention, and if you make a fermentation on lower grades of temperature, it's even slower, and you are running always the risk that it is stuck. What do you have to do? And then you have to reheat it. To reheat, the must is to lose aromas. And if you do that several times, you lose all the aromatic potential of the variety. The result is that afterwards, when there's a lack of nitrogen, you have a bad aroma, it may happen, of the reduction, and that is the egg smell. So what was his problem? Because he doesn't have this problem with his Chardonnay variety, because it's on a different soil, like limestone. So, but he can't change the soil. So, and he didn't know, I gave him the clue, make a measurement of your nitrogen that is on disposal. And as we made the tests, we saw that there are some years or some parcels on the winery which have a very low level on yeast on yan. So what would you have to do? You have to give some yan during fermentation to keep alive the yeast, to keep alive the fermentation, and to help that the thiols that were responsible for the good smell, for the good aromatic compounds, that they don't destroy it with during fermentation, with stress of the fermentation. Since that moment, we make the measurement and we make the nutrition in function of the results of the analysis. There is not any more problems with the aromatic of the Sauvignon Blanc. This was a very, very good success for us, and he's now of my very, very good clients who now makes all the other analysis too, like the old school analysis, like sulfur and like sugar and so on. A second approach for him was he's about 50 kilometers away from the next state-run laboratory. And he makes a lot of red wine in the small barrels, in the barrique barrel, and each barrel works differently. So what that means, he starts his malic fermentation to reduce apple acid to lactic acid. And every cask that works differently. So he has to make to make a lot of tests to check how it works. And he was 3 times a week for the next laboratory, 50 kilometers away, just to see that they have their day off there, and he had to return to his winery without any results. So he was stuffed with that. Now with WineLab Touch, he can make his analysis of the lactic fermentation every day, even on Sunday morning when he wants to. So this was a very good success, and it works very, very nicely. Next slide, please. Yes. No, the next one, please. Yes. Okay. Next thing, quite different, quite different. This is the Kracher winery. This is in the Burgenland. It's on the Hungarian frontier. He's a specialist for sweet wine. And when I say sweet wine, it's not like a German sweet Riesling. It's very sugar. It's 200 grams residual sugar. It's very, very high concentrated. And it's nothing to do with ice wine. Maybe you know that, but it's on the left slide. You see the noble rot. The noble rot is a champignon. It's a reduction of water. So it's like a concentration on the plant. And afterwards, these raisins are very, very, very sweet and very specific, and you have to wait a long time, and it needs a special climate, and we have only 3 places in Europe where it works. This is in France, it's Sauternes, it's Tokai, and this is this region on the Lac, Neusiedl. Okay, so, but what is his problem now? If you work with such high concentrations of sugar, to preserve the wine, to keep it stable, you have also the need of a very high amount of SO2. This is, and the limit is 400 milligrams. This is a lot. But if not, the wine is not stable. And so this for sweet wine, there's a special regulation. And when he then uses the state-run, so he has to make a lot of analysis with every small batch of these wines to never pass over the threshold of 400 grams. And you're always at the limit. You're always at the limit. But if you have too much, the wine is refused for the final check number. So it's very difficult. And now that the client had a problem, when they made this analysis in the state-run laboratory, there were always wrong results. So he decided, okay, when there are always wrong results, what do I do to have some results when I have my own results, when I bring for the final examination to the state-run laboratory, the same thing like they have. So, and this is a little bit like the Heineken method. We had some results from the state-run laboratory, and we were writing a specific curve for him, so he knows when I do this specific analysis with my own curve, I can be sure that I have similar results with the state-run laboratory, and it works since 5 years. So it was a very good work, I think, from Laura, who helped me a lot, and the client, he is very happy with that, and the results are as good as they need to be to have the final check number to make the exportation and for the marketing for the wine. So it was a very good thing for him, sulfur in the high-end concentration. So this was for him, it worked perfectly. Simone, the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much. What you see here are the same pictures. And as I told before, as a subtitle, one man's sorrow, another man's joy, or one man's joy, another man's sorrow is. Here we have the different, the other way around for the need of this producer. The Neckenmarkt, it's not a winery, it's a producing cooperative. That means that 130 vintners at the same time who share a common cellar. So this is a production company for, this is a model like the, okay. And he has another problem because with that winery, they don't attain the prices of about 20 euros per bottle. They are selling bulk wine for 90% bulk wine to other sellers, and the prices are not too high. Sometimes they are very, very low. So they have not the means like the other ones to make the harvest in small cases for 10 or 20 kilos and so on. There's this big trailers coming in during harvest. So what's the problem? When you see the right picture, this is a picture of some red berries in a very good sanitary status, and on the left you have the rot. And when the trailer comes in, on the surface is the sanitary good resins, and down under at the bottom of the trailer you have the rot. So what's the problem with the rot? For Kracher it was good because it gives sweet wine. For him it's very dangerous because the rot changes the metabolism. That means you lose, for example, the vitamin B1, which is very important for the fermentation. You lose some anthocyanins. It's very bad for the color and for the stability of the color. You have a lot of problems when you have rotten resins in your must. But how can you detect them when it's underneath? So normally the check of the quality of the raisins in the past was only the sugar content. And sugar content is rising with rotten raisins. So this is a very difficult situation now for the cellar master to make the choice. So they're measuring now the sugar content, and they're measuring the gluconic acid. They make about 700 to 800 tests during the harvest, because gluconic acid is a marker for the presence of rotten raisins. And this takes part afterward for the payment system for the vintner. When there's too much gluconic acid, even if the sugar is high, he gets less money. So it works. That was a very specific answer of the CDR WineLab Touch, because it was impossible before for them on the place to measure gluconic acid. And he's very happy about this because he could increase control, and he could, in the long run, increase quality of the raisins which are arriving in the cellar. And so it was the title of the slide is "Trust is good, control is better." And this is what was one of the specific answers to a specific question of the wine producer in this case. So the next slide, please, Simone. Okay, this is the Brundelmeier winery. Brundelmeier winery is a big one. It's 100 hectares. It's based on Danube, about 80 kilometers in the west of Vienna. It's one of the really well-known, internationally well-known producers here, with a long tradition, and above all doubts of quality, it's one of the very good and known wineries here. They produce mainly white wine and mainly bubbles, that means sparkling wine. And the problem with the sparkling wine is you have to produce a must, from white grapes and from red grapes. And but the small picture you see with the curve, this is only to symbolize what I will have to tell you now is when this is the pressing process of the raisins for the preparation of a must for sparkling wine. And if you see, there are steps in it, and these steps represent the increase of pressure on the grapes to attain the must. There's now arising one problem. If you increase the pressure and you have a longer skin contact, maceration of the raisins, the phenolic compounds are increasing too. And one of the phenolic compounds is catechins. And catechins is very tricky because in the beginning, on the must, when you make a sensorial test, if you have a tasting, you don't taste them because this is very short. With the time, the change gets longer and it begins to start to taste bitter and astringent. So this is a problem. And it's very, very difficult because when you make a sparkling wine and you have the presence of the bubbles of the CO2, this bitterness is even increased. It gets stronger than with still wine. So you have to have a solution. And one solution is to measure the content of catechins in the must and in the wine, in the must, in the beginning. And there's a threshold. You have to define your own threshold. That means for me, 5 milligram for one fraction is okay. If after there's more, I have a second fraction where I have to endure, for example, special fining agents to reduce them. But it is very difficult with catechin to reduce them. You have to use the BVPP, you know them maybe from the breweries too. And the problem is, in this case, Brundelmeier is working organic. And organic PVPP is not allowed. So what do? You can make a hyperoxidation. Now there's some fining agents on the market, but it's expensive and so on. So it's good to know which lot of my production has to be treated and which not. And if you know the content of the catechins, you can stop the pressing process, separate the first batch, and then you continue. You can make a very, very specific work. And it worked very nicely because the Pinot Noir, the red wine, you make white wine from red wine because you like to work very quickly. We had a very good increase of the quality of the red fraction for the sparkling wine, since we know the catechin compounds and the quantity during the pressing. And you have the control afterwards when the wine is ready. You can still make some measurements of fining and so on when you know exactly where you have to do. So this was a very big step in direction of good quality. And the next problem is, next slide with the 100 kilometers. This is not 100 kilometers. This is 100 milligram of total sulfur in the United States, because as a bio winery, organic winery, when he wants, and he does it, when he wants to export to the United States, there is a limit of 100 milligrams of total sulfur. And this is not too high. You can achieve it, it's okay, but you have to pay attention during work and to have make a lot of measurements to avoid too big need for sulfuring. And now we have once again the problem with the state-run laboratory. They have a acceptance, a failure acceptance of 15%. That means in this case of 15 milligrams of sulfur. When he says, okay, this is okay with the state-run laboratory, and sends the wine out to the United States, they make the test there, and it's 15 above, which was all right in Austria, but not in America. They sent back the whole bunch. So what did he do? he always makes an external test with a German laboratory far away, which better methods to have to check, is my wine really in the limit I'm allowed to have? And he told me, the Cellarmeister, that the results of the WineLab total SO2 are always, without any exception, very close to the results from the German laboratory. So this is a very good thing for him. He knows I can have a final control in Germany on another laboratory, but I can be sure normally it works. But it doesn't work with the state-run laboratory here in the place. So this was a very, very good progress, and it's my most important client. He makes about 3,000 analyses a year with all the parameters that are available. This is very a good example how good the WineLab works. Simone, the next and last slide, please. Okay. This is another thing. He is not worrying, he's not organic working, he's biodynamics. This is very, very difficult because nothing is allowed. Nothing is allowed without, you can't do nearly anything. So what's the problems? This is two problems there. This is only to symbolize the problem he has. When you are working in the biodynamic tradition, there's always the problem with volatile acid or with acetic acid. It's too high, or it can get too high. It's higher because you have other means in the production and so on. And there's a limit too. It's about 1.05 milligrams. I don't know. So it means that you're always on the brink. For example, with the variety of Pinot Noir and so on, you smell it even if it's low. It's lower than the limit. So what do? You have to measure it because you can't do anything against it without you have to mix two batches to make some to lower down the content of volatile or acetic acid. And now he does it with with some samples and so on. He has a very much better control, and he doesn't run anymore the risk to get that his wine is refused at the final examination of the state. So this was a very good thing. And to measure the volatile acid was very, very difficult in the past, and now it's very easy for him. It's very, very easy, and it works. It's very exact parameter, and with the WineLab touch, there's no more problem with that. On the other hand, biological or biodynamic production, he makes also a lot of white wine like Chardonnay, and Chardonnay normally passes the second fermentation, the malolactic fermentation. But he isn't allowed, or doesn't want to use dried bacteria. So he has to wait and to make the circumstances conducive to the second fermentation, and has to wait. Still, it starts. And what's the problem now? This is the red curve you see on the screen. You see, there's nothing happened for a long time, and afterwards, it's the amount of the apple acidity is decreasing very, very slowly. And this is a problem for management because we have a lot of barrels, a lot of tanks. And how do you do it when you make 3, 4, 7 times the measurement of malic acid, and it doesn't change a lot? Are you sure? Is there any activity or is it not? So what did he do? I proposed to him, make the lactic acid, because this is a result of the malolactic fermentation. And now he has the control. And he can say, okay, now it started. Now I have to wait on 3 weeks and I start to measure with the malic parameter. So it's less work, analytical work, and it works out very clearly. And he's very, very happy with this system because he can be sure that malolactic is working, and afterwards he can be sure and he can make the measurement. It's achieved, and now the wine is stable. So it's a very good thing, and it was a specific need of this winery, and we could help him with the WineLab Touch, and he's very happy about it. It took me 3 years there, for example, to convince him, and now he's a good client. Next slide and last slide, I think. Okay, so you remember the slogan, do it yourself. That means do it yourself, but do it with WineLab Touch, because it's really worth the cost to do it. It's not very good clear with the layout, but this I have to give you a clue. The ratio between demonstration and the sold unit is 15:1. So I have to do 15 demonstration to sell 1 WineLab. This is a lot of work, but it's okay because the results are always convincing. And so I sold in the last years 25 units, and the clients are buying about 6,000 to 7,000 reagents a year. So this was my contribution. I hope you did understand well. And if there are any questions, I think Simone will help me with the answer.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much, Andreas. Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation, very technical, and I think we all have seen that the wine sector needs a really special knowledge. Also, the beer sector is more or less like this, like Jenny told us. But of course, and we have already experienced this. The wine sector needs a really knowledge into the sector in order to get in the wineries. Okay, let's see the questions. For example, here we have a question, an interesting question, because I think this question comes from the fact that we, as you know, Andreas, we have different distributors worldwide. In some cases, in the wine countries, we have specific distributors like you, so with the specific knowledge. But in other cases, in other areas, we have general distributors, where general doesn't mean bad, of course, but we have a distributor that take care, like in the UK, for example, that we have a distributor that take care about everything. So a distributor here is asking what could be a complementary product to the WineLab in order to be more effective in the sales of the WineLab.
I didn't understand the question. What we need? A specific knowledge, or?
No. Okay, for sure is we need a specific knowledge. But as you know, we have distributors that are generic distributor. Okay,
yeah, I know.
So
yeah.
they want to get in the winery, and sometimes they don't have tools to get in. So they are asking if there
are post the right questions. Yeah,
there are other products that can be combined to the WineLab to be more effective and to get in the winery easily.
Yeah, this is a lot of relational work. You have to go there, and you have to be very patient to have the right moment. And this is a problem. The wine producer has a problem, but he doesn't talk about it because he don't want to get outside of his house.
Yeah.
Because normally the winter says, I don't know of any problems. I'm working nicely and I'm working perfectly, so there's no any problem. It's like a doctor. It's a question of confidence, and that needs time. And I had the luck that I had other products to open me the door to the winery.
Yeah.
Because I was in the barrel business. So what did I do? We did a lot of tasting. We were talking about the wine, and with the years, there's some, Andreas, don't you think it's the same thing like last year, and so on? And I said, maybe you had some problem with the fermentation. So this opened the door. This is the problem.
Yeah.
So you have to participate maybe on their external market, on the market where they're selling the wines, at the wine tasting, general wine tastings, or food fairs with wine, yeah, you go there as an interested public. So, okay, this is your wine. I'm in the chemical business, and this is very interesting itself. Oh, it's a little bit reduction. Maybe it was too cold, and so on. So don't go not only to the winery, meet the producer outside his house, tasting his wine, for example.
Yeah,
that would be an idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you go there, do you have any problems? I will help you. No.
Yeah.
Go away.
Okay. Do you consider? Okay, here we have different distributors from different areas. If you want to recommend, especially about what you just said, what could be an interesting test to use to convince a winery?
Yeah, but the first test is always like you are doing on the when you are demonstrating, it's always total acidity, because it's the simplest test.
Yeah.
It works very quickly, and you don't have to make something. Don't start with alcohol, because you have to make the dilution, and that's what sometimes the problem with the one. He didn't achieve to make the dilution because he was on his cell phone like this, and he was pipetting like this, and the dilution was not correct, and the result wasn't correct. So what I think, we have one chance. We have a problem. The problem is there are more and more producers who work biological, and that means they don't use a lot of agents, adding additional enology, tannins and dried yeast. Everything is spontaneous, everything is nature. Okay, why not? But the same people are very reluctant for analyzing, because even analyzing is something that doesn't fit in their mind frame. Analyzing is something chemical, So you have to go to them and for a tasting and talk about, for example, how did the fermentation work this year? Or you show up 1 week before harvest and say, okay, there's a new product, there's the WineLab Touch, and there's something very interesting. We can measure, for example, the nitrogen. Can we make a test together? I will show you the result, and you can use the result if you want to without buying anything. So maybe this was a very good thing before the harvest. And this is, I think Jan is very, very important, and that would be a good thing, because they have not the means to make the measurements on their own. And you can show them some statistic, how it works when there's a lack of nitrogen, and even the other way around, if there's too much, because there are people here who put nitrogen in the must to be sure that it is working. And then they have too much, and what exists, they have the same stress as before, because there are too much units of the yeast. This is some sort of cannibalism. And then you have the same rotten egg problem, then we have too less. So go to them. Maybe this is a key, is the Jan, I think. And there's one thing more for the WineLab Touch. You can make the distinction between organic and non-organic. And there's a natural distribution. This is, I think, 2/3 is organic and 1/3 is non-organic. And you can reproduce the natural repetition on the between the two things. So you can work exactly adding a little bit of organic and nothing, for example, for a non-organic nitrogen, or the other way around. So you can give a very good answer. And I have some clients. No, they're not clients, but some people were demonstrated the system, and now they make nutrition. And they certainly, I never had this year. I had no reduction problems. Thank you very much. So maybe next year he buys a unit for me. So maybe this is a very good key. But because it's very linked also to global warming, with the the raining season are not so stable. There's too much rain in a short period, and afterwards is 6 weeks without rain, and there's the hydric stress. So maybe this was a very good thing. So total acidity, you can make it with the grapes before the harvest. This is very good. So don't disturb him doing fermentation, because when you go there, when he is receiving the raisin, he has no time. You can make it in August, 2 weeks before you can say, okay, now you see the total acidity is 15. In 2 weeks, it's 9 or so, something like this. This is maybe, and this way you can make it on a mobile base. You can even make it in your car when you have electricity. So it is this would be the other thing is maybe too specific with malolactic and so, but also malolactic is the malic acid is also a good parameter, because for example for the sparkling wine south of England now, there's a threshold. If you start with more than 3, it's too high. It never gets very sympathetic. So wait, and then this is also a good parameter for the ripeness. And now we start the harvest. So this is maybe the 3 clues: Jan, malic, and total acidity. Yeah. Something I tell you about database and FTEI. They make the state-run laboratories make also some previsions for the harvest in August. And there's a result, and they make also acidity with the FOS. And what's the result? I saw it. It was exposed on the door. Expectations for the harvest, and the malic acid was higher than the total acidity.
That's impossible.
It's impossible, because when the database is bullshit, the result is bullshit. So, yeah. Okay. That was, but that is not my problem. Okay, this is science, but they published the results.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I hope I answered well to your question.
Yeah. A question from South Africa. From your perspective, of course, you have the experience from Africa. Is easier to sell the customers require more junior unit or the big one?
That depends. If you have a client, because the problem is with the WineLab Touch, they are available about now 25 parameters.
Yeah.
And maybe next year is 26. I don't know. Yeah. So I have some clients with the small one, which is 3 parameters for free, and every additional software you have to add it, which is no problem. So I have one client who had the small, and now he has 10 parameters. So it would be better to buy the big one.
Yeah, of course.
I think in the wine business, the big one is better.
Yeah.
Because there is a new parameter, for example, maybe calcium or potassium, I don't know. If there's the software is for free. In the other case, it doesn't maybe work because you don't have the calibration of the light emitter, so it's maybe a problem. So I think in the long run, the big one, yes.
Yeah. Okay, just the last question, because we are running out of time. You mentioned in your presentation a work done on the SO2. I think it was Cracker, or I don't remember the name. A work of customization like we did with Heineken. Okay, so
I didn't understand you acoustically. Please repeat.
Yeah, sorry. You mentioned in your presentation a work of customization of SO2.
Yes.
Like Heineken, and this work
in a way, yeah,
in a way, yeah, of course. And this work helped you a lot to solve the problem and to.
No, but I didn't. In this case, I didn't solve a problem. It is more comfortable for the client.
Yeah.
Because he's not the boss himself. It's from his staff. And you know, in staff, there's changing. There's one person for 2 years, then it's another person, and so on. And we had established a curve for the total and the free SO2 who makes, in a way, but just say it last thing, the same mistake like the state-run laboratory. So we have in the beginning the same result, and it works. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I understand. So this it was to introduce this topic of free and total SO2. I think with other distributors we faced, let's call it a problem. We have to say that free and total SO2 is the most variable analysis if I'm considering the laboratories. So if
yes, it has the biggest variation.
Yes, the biggest distribution.
Even with the same method.
With the same method, exactly. So you are confirming what I'm trying to explain.
But I think as it concerns total sulfur, the WineLab is, I think, the best.
Yeah, okay. But effectively, free SO2 has problems if I'm talking about the method, the reference method. I'm not talking about the WineLab. So
no, the reference, but it's very, because with the color change, you know, and so on.
It has a lot of problems. So in this case, we are able to intervene, like Andreas well explained. In this case, we have put in the WineLab, let's say, a wrong calibration in order to fit the external laboratory, because as Andreas said, the external laboratory always has right.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Anyway, we can do also this in order to solve the problem and to get the customer happy. So this is very...
we have 4 or 5 points on the curve, and they can make the
correlation. We have to say also that free SO2 is the most test sold in the wine sector, also considering sometimes the problem of comparison. But the problem of comparison doesn't come from the WineLab, it comes from the differences between the laboratories.
And that means in the sample and so on, and time, you wait 5 minutes, and the other was 7 minutes, and it's not very stable, the content. You have to work very continuously to have good results.
You have to do the analysis in parallel anyway.
Yeah, in parallel, and always using the same pipette. And
anyway, in the end, the message is that sometimes we can face problems of comparison for total and free SO2, but we are always able to overcome them without problem, with a specific customization that you can do it with our collaboration. And as Andreas have just demonstrated, we are able to overcome easily these problems.
And you know, there's also the work continuing in the laboratory in Italy. So if there's some we can improve. This is the method. There is an update, and it's available very easily, so it's no problem. So, but one more good thing with the WineLab, normally you work offline, so there is no problem with viruses and so on, and then you can make an update 2 or 3 times a year. And that's enough, and it works very good. And if there's something to say, there's a mailing from the central, so you can and an update. It's about 5 minutes, so it's very easy.
Okay. So thank you very much, Andreas. Thank you for your really interesting and detailed presentation. So I hope you enjoy this couple of days of webinars. We are going to have...
I do. It's my first webinar I do in my life.
Okay. Good, very good. And we are going to have this afternoon for us, a specific session for the Spanish speaking distributors. Andreas, you speak Spanish. If you want to join us, you'll be welcome. And
con mucho gusto.
Exactly. And so we will have our Spanish distributor, Juan Carlos Molino, our Spanish. Okay, just one more thing. As we have discussed about the knowledge of the wine is pretty important to sell the WineLab. In the case of Juan Carlos, our Spanish distributor, he got in contact with an advisor in the wine sector because he didn't have any knowledge in the wine sector, and they are now getting in with his company in the wine sector, starting selling WineLab in Spain. That is, I think, one of the most difficult countries
Yes.
for the WineLab, because there are a lot of competitors, but he's doing it, and today he'll tell about it. Okay, so thank you very much again to all of you. You are still a lot with us, and we'll see in the next next occasion, the next webinars. So
Okay, thank you very much to everybody.
yeah, thank you, and bye bye.
Thanks, Dominic. Bye.
Thank you,
Ciao.
everyone.